Good afternoon. My name is Marquise Allen. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm 28 years old. I'm pursuing my master's in multicultural education with a focus on social justice. And I feel as though that's what this program really emphasizes, although it does go into a lot of different sectors of what multicultural education is. I'm glad I chose social justice. This picture I chose really uh, showcase what I feel and what I believe that multicultural education represents, which is equality, gender, diversity, age, and differences. So let's get started with the first question. What do you feel is the most important thing you've done in your community to promote the value of diversity and inclusion? For one, I believe just pursuing higher education as a Black male in general really does showcase my ability and perseverance because only about 12% of Black males attain a bachelor's degree, and beyond it jumps down to about 7 that pursue an advanced degree. And if you go to PhD or ADD route, only about 2% attain that as well. So that's a very small number compared to all the other races and also genders that attain higher education. So I believe I'm in good company, but it's a very small company, and we're getting better. The number has risen since the last time they've done this type of study. So that's good in my book. And also just being an educator and mentoring those who don't feel supported. So I do teach in a ESL school, which is predominantly Hispanic. It's about 3 to 4% African American, but primarily the majority of those students are Hispanic, and they really look up to me and really understand that you know it's important for me to showcase to them that you can do whatever you want, whatever you set your sights on, and the dreams and aspirations that you um, may just think about in life. And I think it's important that they have male teachers around them as well, because it really showcases that you can do things that maybe someone told you that you couldn't, or maybe you just don't feel that you're capable of obtaining those things. And I feel as though that when I'm speaking with them, they always say that, oh, I can't do that, Mr. Allen. And in reality, they can, because I've seen their work. And also just advocating for themselves, because I'm sure they've been told, even in this short time in their life, that you won't go to college, or maybe you wouldn't finish high school, because again, they're coming from parents who maybe didn't go to college, or maybe didn't finish high school, to say the least. So I think just promoting and being the resource, and I hope that I hope I am to them, and just like I said, just tell them that they need to advocate for themselves and just be responsible young adults. So I believe, like, just showcasing that to them, it's worth the while, and I feel like that brings value with diversity and inclusion with them as well. What has been the most important aspect or concept that you learned from this course? I would say that diversity, and also diversity consciousness, is not a one trick wonder. I think you really have to dissect and really go into the depths of what diversity is. I know anytime I see diversity, I think it's always very surface, and coming from someone who's actually like done a lot of work when surrounding diversity, I believe we kind of need to go a little bit deep and really showcase how deep it can go, because it's not just, oh, I'm going to hire different races together, or I'm going to bring different cultures together, which is fine. That is a start. But I think we need to go a little bit deep in terms of, like, when you bring those people together, do they have a clear understanding of what this culture brings, and just cultural awareness? And I'm not just talking about, like, oh, different foods, different language. Like, it needs to be an in-depth look into, because you don't know what someone may consider disrespect or respect in their culture, and vice versa. And I also believe that we must be proactive in understanding who those who are not from the same culture, because a lot of times, like, even for myself, I've learned a whole lot from just reading different chapters, that people, although we may come from a different culture, we may not have the same background. I don't think Black people are a monolith. I think we are very diverse in terms of how we think, how we act, how we represent one another. I don't believe that we're all the same, because I, for myself, can speak to this. I know I've had conversations with other Black men We have a very different experience when it comes to how we should, maybe treat a woman. Um, and I think it goes to a deeper level of just being able to think critically on how these things may affect our community as a whole. And that goes to my third bullet point. Some of us live in an encapsulated bubble, and that can be within our own race or outside of it. Like I said, I have had numerous conversations with how people view certain things. And I always ask them, well, why do you see it that way? And he always said, well, that's all I know, meaning that they've been in the bubble their whole life. And the one time that they're pushed to go beyond it, it's uncomfortable for them. And even, like I said, even barbershop talk, I can do a whole research study on how that conversation just goes from one thing to the other. And what I find myself doing is what makes, those people, not those people, what makes a person, excuse me, come to that conclusion, like what has started from the inception of the conversation or the thought process, and they've got to this point of, you know, the thinking. And like those conversations are very sometimes uncomfortable for me because I don't have that viewpoint. But I also know that different backgrounds bring different things, even for someone who's came from a two-parent household, I'm still learning things about the world that even my parents maybe didn't have the depth to explain to me about. Like they did the very best, but like I said, as I get older, I'm learning more and more things about the world that I was like, I didn't know about that, or that's interesting. Which, like I said, I think when we are being raised, our parents only give us the tools that they know. And it's up to us to kind of, take from it, build upon it, and then pass on to the next generation. So, um, like this course or aspect has shown me that we need to kind of look at things from a broad view and not so micro. Everything is macro, and then I'm sure there's subgroups of problems that we can kind of go down, but everybody doesn't have the same thinking, and I'm learning that within this course. Third question. Given what you know about diversity, consciousness, leadership, and being community minded, explain why it's important for leaders to be adaptable. And this is a very good question because I've had to have this conversation with other leaders. When people are hiring, they like hiring for whatever role, whether it be education, whether it be in corporate America. I think that we need to really look into how diversity and inclusion is being broadcasted in the media, because I feel as though that the marketing behind it, I believe that is great. But when you look at the scope of the company, I shouldn't just see diversity and inclusion on a managerial level. Like it needs to go up to the top. Your C-suite to me needs to be as diverse as the company, especially if that's what you're preaching. And I feel as though that's where the disconnect is coming from. Because if you think about what happened with the Starbucks incident where the two black men had to be removed because the worker felt uncomfortable, or the H&M commercial with the little, it was a little boy, he had on like a monkey sweater, which was, I believe, was a little bit tone deaf and inappropriate. And third, um, what was Kendall Jenner doing the Pepsi commercial again, and that was all around Black Lives Matter. I feel as though if that process of all those companies would have went through the chain of command with a diverse group, I feel as though that somebody would have called them out and say, "Hey, I don't believe that's a good idea," and I also think that we should take a look at what's how we want to represent our company, because a subgroup of this country could be offended by that. Um, and I also think that leaders need to be an active participant within diversity. Like it should not just be you hiring somebody of a different race or nationality or ethnicity. It needs to be an in-depth thought process on why you're hiring them. Not just because they fit some quota, because that's what a lot of people do, and I've seen that a lot. But they need to be active and being very proactive in diversity consciousness, because again, it's not a one-trick point. Like you don't just develop the skill on Monday, May the ninth and then it's there forever. No, you need to kind of build upon that skill. It's like with anything, you have to train your mind to unlearn the biases that you maybe even acquired over time. And I also think that a lack of transparency from leaders really doesn't go well with who they're trying to communicate to, because it comes off as not genuine. And when you're not being genuine with people that you consider employees that you care about, it shows. And one good point that I did want to point out was mirror imaging, is that you have a idea or expectation of what somebody should bring to the company based on who they are. And that, to me, I think that's a disservice and it's completely unfair to those people. So I believe as though we're getting better as far as preaching about diversity, consciousness, and leadership. But I feel as though that we need to come across a little bit more transparent and genuine, because those two are they intersect at some point. And I feel as though like effective leadership qualities, and Butcher touched on this as well, and she named these four: skills, commitment, understanding, and awareness. I feel as though if you have those qualities in some form of whatever leadership style that you have, you would be an effective leader. Now, I'm not saying that you may not fall short one time or a few times, but I feel as though that if you have the skills, the commitment, the understanding, the big one is understanding, because everything that you see, you may not understand, but if you attempt and, hopefully that person educates you on it, or maybe you educate yourself, that would then bring awareness to what you feel, and then you can check yourself. And I think those qualities are very spot on, if you ask me. So that's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And that is the end. And I've enjoyed this class thus far. And thank you for listening.